Good evening. Hello, thank you all for coming, for joining us this evening for our 87th annual meeting. If you're viewing this meeting online and have any technical issues or are not able to view the full meeting, please check our website at the end of the week to watch the recorded meeting. The Facebook Live option is solely a viewing option again this year. Member comment and participation will only be possible with those members attending in person here at the Cloquet Library tonight. We would like to say thank you to Emily with KY Interpreting Services for joining us again this year and providing a sign language interpreter. We ask that you all silence your cell phones and will now begin the 87th annual meeting of Northwoods Credit Union. Thank you.
It's my privilege to call to order the 87th annual meeting of Northwoods Credit Union. Membership meetings are for the purpose of giving us as members the opportunity to speak up, to voice our opinions, and help determine what is good for strengthening and developing our credit union. In that spirit, we invite all of you to participate in the proceedings of the evening. I call upon Board Secretary Christine Ringrat to verify the proof of meeting notice was sent to all members in accordance with our bylaws.
I verify that the meeting notice letter was sent to all members of record stating the 87th annual meeting of Northwoods Credit Union was to be held on Tuesday, May 7th at 7 p.m. at the Cloquet Library.
The first order of business tonight is the roll call for Board of Directors and Supervisory Committee members.
Chairperson Jeff Fletcher.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Larry Champeau.
Present.
Myself, Secretary Christine Ringett. Treasurer Debbie Larson.
Present.
Director Lisa Follett-Pola.
Present.
Director Nathan Manner.
Present.
Director Darren Juntinen.
Present.
For our Supervisory Committee, Vicki Radke was unable to attend this evening. Brenda Allenin.
Present.
Dakota Koski.
Present.
Christine, have you established whether there is a quorum present?
Yes, there being 96 members in attendance, a quorum has been established. This is a legal meeting.
The next item before us is approving the minutes of the last annual meeting. The minutes of the previous annual meeting of the membership can be found on page 3 and 4 of your annual meeting booklet. Minutes were reviewed by the board at both their June and July 2023 board meetings. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing no hands, there will be no changes to the 2023 annual meeting minutes as they have been presented. They are hereby accepted as read. We are now ready to hear the report of the board, which I will be sharing with you. My official written report is in the program, but I wish to talk about a few other items as well. In 2023, we saw the completion of our Stanley Avenue office remodel, the successful version to a new core system that deals with our loans and shares, and we began the rebranding of our debit cards to MasterCard, a rebranding that is now nearly completed. We extend to you a big thank you for your cooperation as we completed those major projects that were a very significant investment for our credit union's future. The Board of Directors continues to be dedicated to the credit union's success, making sure proper policies are in place, financial performance is good, and that the credit union continues to be prepared for the future. we continue to seek ways to better serve you, our member owners. Our Asset Liability Committee, ELCO meetings, led by Chief Financial Officer Matt Farron, have proved to be very interesting throughout 2023 and into this year. Our discussions often revolved around the economic environment in the country and how those changes would be affecting our credit union, near term and into the future. Those meetings obviously included discussions on inflation and federal interest rates. The question was, how do we as a board of directors manage loan and CD rates for the best interests of our credit union while keeping you, our member owners, in mind? I want to thank my fellow board members that are up at the front table tonight for all the work they continue to put into the credit union and make it successful. Our board, as it sits before you, has over 75 years of experience with Northwoods Credit Union in our previous roles as supervisory committee members, associate board members, or as board members. That experience is extremely valuable as we work to oversee your credit union, Northwoods Credit Union. We're also fortunate to have a very capable management team led by our president and CEO, Doug Wolf, that allows the board to focus on bigger picture items and to think strategically about the future of the credit union. Our executive management team has over 135 years of credit union and banking experience. That experience is invaluable as they work each day to be sure our credit union remains successful. In addition, as you all know, we have an outstanding staff that provides top-notch personal and professional service to you, our member owners. Thank you, Doug, and all your team for your continued dedication to serving our member owners. I would like to also acknowledge the good work done in 2023 by our supervisory committee, led by committee chair Vicki Ratke. On behalf of the board, I thank you, our member owners, for continuing to support your credit union by utilizing the services that we offer. We look forward to many more successful years in the future. That concludes my verbal report. Are there any comments or questions relating to the report that I just provided? There being none, it is now part of the meeting minutes. The next order of business for the evening is the report of the President, CEO, given by Doug Wolf.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for your kind words. I'm going to give you fair warning. I'm going to read my remarks, my verbal remarks, some of which will kind of overlap with what Jeff had because, I think when things are going well, sometimes your mind kind of think the same way. And so rather than try to edit on the fly, I'm going to stick to my remarks, and we'll go from there. Sound good? Okay. So first of all, I want to thank you for attending the meeting tonight. We really tried to get the best weather, but we missed it by a day. But not too bad. It's not snowing, so we're okay. My written report is in the meeting booklet, and I do want to add a couple of comments. First and foremost, I want to thank you, our member owners, for supporting your credit union by utilizing our services. We do what we do only for one reason, to help our members improve their financial well-being. And by being a member, you are doing the same for your family, your friends, neighbors, and coworkers who also do their banking at Northwoods Credit Union. Northwoods Credit Union is a financial cooperative, and is operating by the principle of members pooling resources in order to provide better services at more reasonable costs, just like a credit union was intended to do. So again, thank you for being a member and helping us fulfill this noble principle. As I wrote in my report, 2023 was a year of big projects. The board and senior management team together have a vision for the credit union's future that sees the credit union growing and providing more services. To prepare for such a future takes a lot of planning, effort, and investments now so that we are ready for when that growth and any new services come online. In April of 2023, we completed our renovation of our Stanley Avenue office that had not had any significant improvements since it was built about 20 years ago. The renovation not only gave us an updated look, it also gave us additional offices, a better drive-up space for the staff, a much improved lobby transaction counter, and there is now a member waiting area that we did not have before. This is quite remarkable considering we did not increase the footprint of the building. Then in August 2023, we changed our main computer system that is used to maintain our members' accounts and loans. We changed our mobile banking platform, and we changed our third-party processor for our debit cards. These were enormous projects, taking a couple of years of planning and training with about a third of the staff involved in preparations. The main computer and debit card processor conversions went very well with minimal to no negative member impact. However, the change of mobile banking platforms was not as smooth. The technical side of the conversion was fine. However, many members had difficulties initially logging into the system, and they ended up requiring the assistance of our frontline staff. Thankfully, everyone with mobile banking was able to get logged into their account within about a week. We thank all of those members who were patient with us as we worked through getting everyone logged in. The really good news, though, is that the new platform is has more functionality and is very easy to use. All these significant projects do come at a financial cost. At the recommendation of the executive management team, the board approved significant monetary investments in these improvements, which is reflected in our low net income for 2023. Despite the low net income, our reserves remain strong, and our future earning potential looks good. As far as the basic financial measures, other than net income, in 2023, we continue to see growth in membership, assets, deposits, and loans. The big economic news for the last couple of years has been inflation and the rise of interest rates. We have seen high inflation, although it is slowing, but keep in mind, while inflation is slowing, things still cost significantly more than they did pre-pandemic or when we came out of the pandemic. To fight inflation, the Federal Reserve Bank Open Market Committee, the group that sets the target rate for Fed funds or short-term rates, has increased the target rates for Fed funds significantly. Although I would note that the current Fed funds rate is at its normal historical average. We went through almost 2 decades of below average rates. To address this reality of higher rates, in early 2023, we offered a very high rate short-term CD to help our members with better returns during a difficult economic time. This was very successful as we saw many members take advantage of the rate specials. Then in September 2023, we believed that the interest rates would remain relatively steady and that the Fed would not be quick to lower short-term rates. So we took the unusual step of discontinuing our short-term CD specials and significantly raised our longer-term CD rates to above market rates so that our members could take advantage of locking in better rates for several years. Now it looks like we were correct that rates will remain at this elevated level longer before the Fed decides to move rates down. Our view last fall of interest rates not decreasing much in 2024 was completely opposite of the so-called financial experts. But we were right, and we did the right thing with our rates. While the big projects from 2023 are now completed, We are not complacent in moving the credit union forward. So far in 2024, we have completed the process of converting our Visa debit cards to the MasterCard brand. And we have launched our new student loan marketplace that would allow our members to search for the best private student loans for their situation. And it will allow members who already have private student loans in repayment to search for the best loan consolidation options for them. This is an exciting new service for us to offer that I think will make the experience of college financing less stressful. We will continue planner, our advisor for us to help Ed and everybody else. And I think if you've had any interactions with Ed, you know he's a trusted guy. Ryan's a trusted guy. They're looking for your best interest, and they are associated with our credit union, so there's no pressure on sales on their part. So I really do encourage you to consider talking to them and seeing what they might be able to offer you if you have that need. Finally, I would like to thank our board of directors for their support and leadership, the supervisory committee for their great work, and I give a big thank you to my management team and our staff. Without all these individuals, we could not navigate these tough economic times successfully, and we could not bring you the personalized services we do, nor the innovative services we provide. But most of all, my sincere thank you to you all as member owners. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks.
Never had anybody applaud before.
Thank you, Doug. Are there any questions or comments for Doug? Seeing no hands and hearing none, the report has been received and will be part of this evening's minutes. We are now ready to hear the report of the Supervisory Committee, and that will be given by Supervisory Committee member Brenda Allenan.
The Supervisory Committee works in conjunction with the Board of Directors to monitor and review the credit union's performance and controls. Our job is to verify that operational and financial functions are performed in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles, federal and state laws and regulations, within the parameters of the board policies, and that reasonable internal controls are in place. To assist the committee in meeting its obligations, the committee retains the services of several outside firms to perform certain ongoing internal audit procedures within the operations of the credit union, to perform the annual verification of member accounts and an opinion audit. The opinion audit was as of 9/30/2023. The financial information in this annual report is unaudited. The reports from these independent firms are reviewed by the committee, reported to the board and management, and the committee follows up on any findings. Based on the above audit procedures and the ongoing work of the committee, the Supervisory Committee is pleased to report that in 2023, no material concerns were revealed. The committee expresses its gratitude to the Board of Directors, the credit union management, and the staff for their cooperation and assistance during the year. Respectfully submitted on behalf of the Supervisory Committee.
Thank you, Brenda. Are there any comments, questions regarding the supervisory committee report? Hearing none, that will now be entered into the board minutes, the meeting minutes. Is there any unfinished business from the floor? Seeing none, at this time I will turn over the meeting to President CEO Doug Wolf for the purpose of discussing board and committee compensation. Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Each year at the annual meeting of the membership, each year at the annual meeting, the membership votes on board and supervisory committee compensation. The current rate of pay is $40 per hour, which was set at last year's annual meeting. At last year's annual meeting, there was a motion to have an ad hoc committee formed to review board and supervisory committee compensation. Chair Kluscher appointed board members, Alan, if you're here, I'm going to mess up your last name. Alan Finifrock, sorry, Alan. John Kemper, Jim Ninus, and Mike Peterson. The ad hoc committee met on April 24th of this year with Chair Kluscher as board liaison and myself also attending the meeting to provide background on board member responsibilities, average hours put in by the board members, and to review the survey of other state-chartered credit unions that I conducted in March 2023 as well as March 2024. With this, at this time, I'd like to invite Jim Ninus to come up as a representative of the ad hoc committee to talk a little bit about what the committee discussed and what their recommendation is.
I see, kind of like at church, everybody's kind of towards the back of the room, so I think I'll just stay right here.
Jim, you got to get here early to get the good seats in the back.
I do want to thank Jeff and the board members and the supervisory committee for allowing me to serve on that committee. And I know that Alan and Michael and John all were very pleased at the opportunity to take a look at that compensation picture. A couple of days after Jeff called me and asked if I would be willing to do this, I realized that I hadn't really taken a look at the responsibilities that we're asking of our board members and our supervisory committee people. And I thought that was important to understand before we looked at what we were going to make a recommendation on how we were going to compensate them. So I did what my wife suggested, and I went on the internet and I took a look at what the internet said about board responsibility. And I looked at that for an extended period of time because I hadn't looked at it before. And I took some of that information and I wrote just a couple of words about what we're really asking of the board and the supervisory committee. And I'd like to share that with you. The board members at the Northwoods Credit Union act as trustees of the credit union's assets and must exercise due diligence and oversight to ensure that our credit union is well managed and its financial health remains strong and sound. And that's really a big obligation. They not only look at setting the rates for interest, whether it's on loans or on investments. They not only do the planning, the strategic planning for the next year or two out. They set goals. They hire the CEO, and that's a huge job.
They did an unbelievably good job.
Yeah. And that's so vitally important to the health of that credit union. And so I learned a lot off of the internet. And then I attended that April 24th board meeting, And we discussed the job description, the financial responsibilities, what the regulations dictate the board of directors do. And then we looked a little bit on the compensation schedule. And the one thing that I would just like to remind everybody, this is the only time that we can adjust the board members or the supervisory committee people's compensation. It can't be done at any other time of the year. I've attended a number of these annual meetings over the past few years, and I know that when this subject comes up, there's normally a silence in the room. And I think that silence is not a reluctance to pay these people their appropriate due, but it's a silence because people probably don't really know exactly what we should do. And that was the reason we asked Doug to do that survey of other credit unions and how do we stack up against them. And so he sent out a request for information, and he had sent that to 44 credit union organizations. 33 responded, which Jeff pointed out, it's about a 72% return, which is darn good on any survey. And so we found out that there are 6 credit unions in our area that don't reimburse their board members anything. And I think that's kind of sad for the time that these people donate that they don't get some reimbursement. We also found out that there are a number of credit unions that pay $25 and more per hour to their board members. There's also a number of them that pay above that rate. And so we looked at the averages to see how we stacked up. And the average of those boards that are above $25, the average was $48.36 per hour. And so last year we set a rate of $40. If you took those same credit unions and say, we're not going to average it, just what is the most popular rate of compensation, it came in at $50 per hour. That is what most of the credit union boards are receiving. We'd like to tell you that we think, the board or the committee that met, that these folks that are sitting up here do a better than average job. And so what the committee is recommending is that we adjust that rate this year to $50 per hour, which is just a little above the average. And we feel that if we do that, we shouldn't have to look at this for another 2 to 3 years or 4 years down the line. And so the committee's recommendation after all of the reviews, all of the research, was that they deserve to get $50 an hour. And so I'm going to ask that you support that recommendation. I will offer the motion, Doug, from the floor, that we make that adjustment this year to $50, and would hope that someone would second it, and then we can open it up for discussion if there is any.
Okay,
I'll second it.
Okay, 1 second. So we'll make the official motion will be to raise the compensation for the board and supervisory committee to $50 per hour, beginning at the end of this meeting and until the next meeting of the members, which again, we'll have to vote again on next year, so it'll be for the year. And I know there was a couple of people, if you could say your name loud and clear.
Cheryl
Cheryl
Vitelli,
and
Deborah Weckert.
okay. So we have a motion that was made by Jim, properly seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Yes.
Not that I'm against or that, but just for clarification, how many hours per month or per week or does the board members, How much time does it take that
Yeah.
they address?
I don't have my notes with me, but I think Jim does.
I can answer that question for you. We took the average hours for the 2023 year, and the board chair, he's the hardest working individual by the number of hours that he spent. But you have to understand that the board chair has a lot more duties than some of the other board members might have. And for the grand total of the year, he spent 96.5 hours on credit union business that he gets reimbursed for. And I would also like to share that the board meets every month. So they have set for 12 meetings. They get a board packet that is sent to them prior to the meeting. They get about a half an hour's worth of compensation for preparing for the meeting and going over that board packet. Now, if you take somebody like Jeff, he gets that board packet, and with his years of service, he can go through that within that half hour without too much difficulty. But a new board member might spend a little bit more than a half an hour going through that board packet, so they're prepared for the meeting, and they only get the half hour's worth of reimbursement. They get no pay for traveling. So when Jeff leaves Floodwood to come to Cloquet for the annual meeting, he drives for about 45 minutes to an hour. I think that's about the amount of time it takes me to get to Floodwood. And he gets no reimbursement for that. If a board member leaves his place of employment to come to the board meeting, they get no reimbursement for that either. So the reimbursement hours for Jeff were 96.5. That's not many hours for the job that he has. Our board secretary, who is responsible for keeping track of the board, and her total hours for the year were 60.25 hours. All other board members averaged 46.63 hours per year. So what I did was I took those hours and multiplied them by 40, because that's what they're currently getting. And then I took those same hours and multiplied them by 50 to see what the difference in compensation would be for the year if they continued to work those average hours. For Jeff, he would get a whopping increase of $965 a year. For our Christine, for our secretary, she would get a whopping $602.50 a year increase. And for the balance of the board, it would be $466.50 a year if they work the exact same hours. So the impact on the credit union is not huge. And I think the important thing that the committee felt is that we want to keep good, competent people in these positions. And if we're going to do that, we have to set a rate that is going to keep them there and attract other people that might come interested later on.
Good job, Jim.
Okay. All right. Yes.
Do you have a total of hours for the year the board worked, all combined employees?
I didn't total the hours. It's the 96 and a half. It's 60 and a quarter. And it's, well, the average for the board members is 46. So
That's another, it's the other 5. The supervisory committee, the supervisory committee chairman probably averages slightly more than the average board member for the duties she does. And the rest of the supervisory committee is significantly less than those numbers. I'm an accountant by trade, but I'm not gonna be able to do that math in my head.
no, I'm not going to attempt to do it either. I did it at home where I had the time and I could, figure that all out. But like I said, the committee felt very strongly in setting that rate. And Jeff might have it.
Jeff has a calculator, so he said that the total for the number of hours put in by the board is 386.75 hours
Okay.
for the year.
Thank you.
And there is no other compensation. They don't get any discounts on loans. They don't get any better treatment for that. As a matter of fact, just so you're aware, when you're on the board or on the supervisory committee and you want a loan from the credit union, while normally most of you could call up or see one of our loan officers and get an answer within 10 minutes probably, the board members and the supervisory committee members, by regulation, it requires the board to act on those loans. So, not only do they put the time in, but when they utilize the credit union for loans, they don't get the loans as quick as you guys do because of this little extra steps they have to go through. So, and I would point out, just to be totally upfront, Jim is correct. Like when Jeff drives from Floodwood, he doesn't get compensation per hour for driving, but he does get reimbursed for mileage. So, but if the directors that live within the Cloquet, Esco, Carlton area, they don't get any mileage. They live because they live close to, because the meetings are held here in Cloquet. Are there any other questions on the motion? Any other questions? Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll turn the meeting back over to Chairman.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, and thank you, Jim, for the remarks, and thank you to the committee.
Jim, thank you very much for being on the committee and addressing the members here tonight at our meeting. I think that really clarifies things. And on behalf of the board, we thank you for the increase that you are providing us. Listen, we have a very experienced board. We've got over 75 years across the front table here in the credit union industry, with Northwoods Credit Union specifically. And that, as I said earlier in my report, that is a very valuable experience as we make our decisions and work forward. Is there any other business to be brought forward at this point in time? Hearing no other new business, we're now ready to move forward to the election process. There are 2 seats up for the election in 2024 that will serve 3-year terms, as well as a 1 2-year term that is an unexpired term. The 2 incumbents were placed into nomination by the nominating committee, and there were no other nominations from the committee, nor were there any nominations by petition. For those 2 seats, 3 years each, there were only 2 nominations for the 2 board of directors seats. Therefore, I declare by acclamation the election of Debbie Larson and Nathan Manor to 3-year terms on the board of directors. Help me in congratulating them. The 1 seat up for election is an unexpired term. The nominating committee placed into nomination the incumbent, Darren Jutman. There were no other nominations from the committee, nor were there any nominations by petition. Therefore, I declare the election of Darren Jutman to the 2-year term on the board of directors. Please join me in congratulating Darren. There being no other business to come before the membership, I hereby declare the 87th annual meeting of Northwoods Credit Union adjourned. If you logged in late on our Facebook Live or had any audio or video issues, please check our website later this week to view a recording of the meeting. Now that the meeting has concluded, our Director of Marketing will announce door prize winners. Once again, thank you all for being here tonight. Your attendance is greatly appreciated. Travel safely home.
All right, good evening. We have 14 cash prizes to give out tonight. We're going to start with the largest at $100.